Yo, 7-star citizens, I just got off my first couple of hours of Evocati because I got added to Evocati yesterday, and that means I can now talk about Evocati and have a look at features before they come into Wave 1 PTU, and it is weird. I want to talk about what I got to experience first at Evocati, what the deal with 323 is, and all of that sort of stuff. And I wanted to keep it fresh in my mind. So this is straight up right into recording. So if you do like this kind of video, please make sure to like and subscribe to see more videos like this. As I imagine, once we get to like 4.0 and we get Evocati patches for that, there'll be a lot of that too. Evocati 323 has been in Evocati for like 2 weeks now, or something like that. And they've been inviting more and more people to give it a go, to test all of these crazy features that you've no doubt seen on the roadmaps and through ISCs and all that sort of stuff. And luckily, from what I've heard, Evocati got into like a pretty decent state by the time that I was able to join it today. And I've gotten to actually enjoy it. So I want to sort of go through, I've got some notes here that I made over the course of my roughly 4.5 hours that I got to do it today. And all of this before it possibly goes to Wave 1 tomorrow. It sounds like it is going that way. There's obviously as well, there are still features that are not in 323 Evocati PTU yet. That we're going to be waiting on, like freight elevators, which is a pretty large feature. So this is just all the stuff that's in it right now that I was able to experience. And we're going to start with the very first thing you're going to experience when you open up 323, which is the new splash screen, new title screen. Not the coolest thing in the world, but it is very cool, genuinely. You know, they've moved to these very nice animated title screens recently, and this one is no different. It's a nice Microtech distribution center in the Microtech Green Zone. It looks very cool. And the first actual thing that you'll get to experience in 323 though is the character customizer, and I was so incredibly impressed. I was really surprised by how much variety there was. One thing I tried is essentially what I do in live all the time, which is hit the randomizer button like 10 times, and every single randomized character that came up was just completely different. I played around a lot with the sliders. I played around a lot with the little points that you would have seen in ISC. They've got like little points on like different parts of the nose or the mouth or the eyes that blend through a bunch of the different presets that they've scanned over the last couple of years. And you can really make a truly unique character. It's super, super cool. So loved that. I love how much variety we have right now, and the fact that they said we're going to be getting more is awesome. So really good. One thing I was a bit disappointed by, they don't have my mustache, where there's nothing in the center. And no, I don't shave that. I just can't grow hair there. The first thing I noticed when I logged in, I set myself at New Babbage, was the new UI. And the new UI is super, super clean. The like a visor UI is really easy to read, really easy to understand. It looks a lot more like current day tech. It looks appropriate. Aesthetically, it's really nice. The map in the top left corner is awesome. It never once failed me the entire time that I played my my Evocati playthroughs. Obviously they don't have access to the entire map of the game yet, so it's pretty much just landing zones that you do have access to the map in, but in there it's fantastic. Landing zones and ships, sorry. Pretty much every ship, as far as I could tell, every ship had its map as well. One kind of cool caveat to that, or one addition to that rather, was that when I was in a hangar, I had the map of both the ship that I was in as well as the hangar on the top left in the mini map, which was kind of cool. I don't know, I just wasn't expecting that. It's just a nice little touch. The Mobiglass is pretty good, but I think the Mobiglass is the one thing that needs the most touch-up work. You would have seen in ISCs from, I think it was last week, that the readability on the Mobiglasses is not great. And that is certainly the case here. It's actually really jarring seeing how amazing the UI looks, and even the minimap UI, and then comparing it to the Mobiglass, and in particular the like world map, like the planetary map, where it's just really hard to read things. There's not much contrasting of colors. The doubling effect of text comes into it. Not crazy amounts in the Moby Glass, to the point where it's like it probably only needs to get touched up a little bit. But where it is really bad is in the new loot UI, which amazing feature, super intuitive. The new loot UI, very easy for you to guess what kind of ammo, what kind of medicine, that sort of stuff that they have on them, and very easy if you do want to go into like the extended loot where you're grabbing their armor and whatnot. It's very easy to transition into that. Just a lot of issues with like the word duplication, so really hard to read. I do like the contrast of it, having the red on top and the blue on the bottom. That looks great. Just yeah, the text needs some sort of update. The distribution centers, I went around to check a couple of them just to see them, and yep, huge, super enormous. They've probably got a footprint of something like 10 square kilometers. They are massive. They have these small, or at least the ones that I saw, have these small little outposts on the outskirts of them, about a kilometer or two away, that sort of serve as, I guess, their own tiny outposts. I don't know if there'll be content there. I did notice that there were some of the Ursa rovers there that spawn now, so that was kind of cool. I wasn't able to see any missions there. I didn't see any NPCs, and unfortunately at the moment very bugged, but very cool looking regardless. The water reactions were really surprising how well they worked. I went over to a lake and a river. I put my thrusters towards the river, and it worked the way that my brain thought it should work. Whether or not that's actually how physics works is irrelevant in this case. It made sense to me, and it's gotten me really excited It's gotten me really excited to do like Dragonfly or X1, races in rivers and watch how they ripple and whatnot. So super excited for those. That were very cool. In a similar sort of vein, the clouds looked way better. I am not 100% certain, but I do think I saw some light rays. It's a bit hard to tell. There was lots and lots of graphical issues that I was having. Once again, it's Evocati. You should sort of expect that sort of stuff at this stage, but it looked very cool. In addition to, I think, ground fog. Once again, hard to tell if it was actually there or not, but I think the ground fog was there. Markers. So in this regards, I'm talking about ship markers, mission markers, quantum markers, those sort of markers that come up on your UI very often. Insanely great. They were super easy to understand where I was looking. They didn't like blend into the background or anything. It was very obvious that they were there. Mission markers do come up as a different color, which is great, because that contrast is going to mean that it's much easier for you to find which marker you're actually looking for when you're in your ship. And one last touch that they do with it is when you've got when you're looking at a marker, the letters sort of spawn from the center and come out, so it doesn't clutter up your UI immediately, but it's like a nice little like AR kind of touch to how those markers work, which I really enjoyed. On the mini map, in a sort of similar kind of way, on the mini map they did a lot of contrasting. So doors will show up as green. When you're on a ship, this can also include doors to components, or doors, if you're in Hercules C2, all of those doors that are on the bridge to the cockpit, they all come up green. Weapons come up as orange, so even though you might not actually be able to physically access the weapons, you do know where they're positioned in the ship, which I imagine is going to come into it with engineering. And anywhere that you can't get in is red. There'll be like closed doors, and unaccessible doors will be in red. I was very surprised to find server recovery not just work, but keep my mission that I had tracked. Now, this is a iffy one, as the mission itself I don't think was working, and I wasn't able to get it to work, but the mission stayed in my contract manager it stayed tracked and it kept letting me go to that location. I didn't have to grab the new mission or anything like that, which is really what we want from crash recovery, right? We want to be able to have it not completely interrupt our entire gaming session and make us want to close it all down. So that was awesome. That's one of those like back end things that clearly they're doing some work too and is working a little bit. I didn't have like any full crashes or anything, but I had one server that had quite a lot, 30 Ks, where they essentially had the server error, replication error, and it took about a minute each time for the servers to spool back up and get ready. So that's something to keep in mind as we go forward, as the replication layer is supposed to be active for this patch. It's for 3.23, so it's going to be a really important one for them to get right, and it seems like it's doing something. And to only get that many of that issue in Evocati was a little bit surprising. So. The new interaction system was also one of the first things that I felt, which is, the new F that comes up anytime you want to interact with a door or, some item that's sitting around a Pico ball, which look like they're spawning very frequently. It's going to be really weird getting used to that. It makes sense. I know there was a lot of people who were a little bit concerned, and it's like, oh, well, what if we just have Fs all over the place? You don't. It's only really noticeable when you get right up next to an interactable, and it was a non-issue. The only reason that it's going to be hard to get used to it is not going like into your interaction menu and stuff. So that'll be that'll be something that's going to be a little bit jarring at first for anyone who's been playing the game for any meaningful amount of time. But other than that, it looked great. A small change to how they calculate distances in the game now as well is we now use megameters and gigameters. Megameter is 1,000 kilometers. Gigameter is 1,000 megameters. Obviously, it's a bit of a weird measuring system. In like real life space, we use AU, astronomical units, which is the distance between Earth and the Sun. And that's sort of how that works. You can't really do that in Star Citizen because all of the distances are different and all of the planet sizes and stuff are different. But I think it works for the most part. It could be a little weird in some aspects, but I think it's going to be a thing that we're just going to get used to and then we'll be fine with eventually. I honestly reckon it may be better just in the formatting to go from meters to Ks to Ms. You can't go to Ms. I don't know what the solution is, but seeing KM, MM, GM can be a little bit weird at first glances when you're trying to guess distances. Can be a bit strange. Maybe they don't need to go at that high. Maybe they just go KM, MM, and that's it. You just don't go gigameters. You just multiply the number. But whatever. Either way, that's the thing that you got to notice there. EVA was one of the last things that I got to actually check out, and oh boy, does EVA just work. It really just works with, as far as I can tell, no issues. I'm sure there's a bunch of corner cases that people have figured out already, but I jumped out of a ship in orbit. I flew around. It was super intuitive. It didn't feel that much different to current EVA in terms of being able to control yourself, with the change that essentially you're decoupled. So if you begin accelerating, you can continue moving that direction for essentially forever, I imagine. I didn't test it, but you keep moving that direction until you put in the other input. I even tried to like enter my ship upside down. EVA fixed it and knew exactly what to do, flipped me around. It also didn't feel like it took me out of the experience to be like flipped around to be put back in the ship like that, because you just want it to work. You want to be able to get back into your ship without crazy geometry ragdolling throwing you around all over the place. So I was not able to find creatures, but once again, I only spent about 4.5 hours in Evocati, so plenty more time to check that out. Master modes does in fact appear to be on every ship. I can definitely say for the non-ish combat ships, it didn't feel particularly different in most cases when I was flying around. Maybe there was some instances where it was a little bit weird, but you'll turn on your nav mode in those instances anyway, and then you're going to you're going to be going full speed. So it was mostly fine. And then have not had a big chance to try out any more combat ships other than what we've had in the PU over the last little while. And that's sort of where we're at. It was really, really impressive, and I'm really happy that CIG gave me the opportunity to check out Evocati and check out all of these different features and help with bug fixing in all these features. There is one more mention that I do want to point out, which is as part of the new UI, we have the new chat on the left side. It's very, very buggy, but in my opinion, it is better. It is much better. It looks better, and it looks like it filters better as well. But we'll see how that goes once some of these bugs get fixed. Because right now there's an issue where the chat essentially just like keeps bouncing back up and down, so it's very, very hard to read. And yeah, that's the patch. So thank you guys for watching. The second this goes to wave 1, I'm going to try to be streaming it. I will also try to stream this on YouTube as well. And we are almost certainly going to be talking about this on the podcast this weekend, Answer the Call podcast, which you can find in the links below with Salty Mike. Thank you very much, everyone who's been supporting the podcast as well. This is going to be a truly insane patch. I don't think anyone disagrees with that. But there's still more features to come. And we don't have freight elevators yet. It's nuts. I'll see you guys later. Have a good one.